Coming to you from the beautiful University of South Florida campus in Tampa, it's USF Housing Live!
Welcome everyone. This is the Season 6 premiere of USF Housing Live. I'm your host, Julia O'Hara, with Housing and Residential Education at the beautiful University of South Florida in Tampa. Housing and Residential Education's mission is to create a safe and welcoming residential community that promotes student success. While the USF community has experienced many changes in light of the coronavirus pandemic, our focus continues to be our residents and our community. We are looking forward to welcoming you, our residents, to campus in the future and are here to answer your questions as you prepare for college. To everyone joining us live, if you have a question, no matter where or how you're watching, just type it in the comments and we'll answer you in real time. Tonight's episode is Find Your Home on Campus. For right now, we're doing things a little bit different this season. To make sure our team is practicing social distancing, we'll be interviewing our guests through video chat. Our first guest tonight is the Assistant Vice President for USF Housing and Residential Education, Anna Hernandez. Hi, Anna. How are you doing this evening?
Hi, Julia. I'm doing just great. How about yourself?
Great. Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
My pleasure.
All right. You ready to jump into some questions?
Sure.
Okay. So the first question I have for you, Anna, how has housing and residential education responded to the COVID-19 crisis this spring?
This has been a semester unlike any other that I have ever experienced in my 30-year career in university housing. It demanded thoughtful, flexible, and student-centered approaches to our work and really strong communication. It was complicated, it was unprecedented. We really tried hard to provide some calm in the chaos. We hope it worked more than it didn't. And everything was changing so fast and information was coming in all different directions and in different ways. And we really appreciate everybody's patience as we work through this challenging time. Most specifically, some of the things that we did on campus in response to the COVID-19 pandemic were very focused on following the best guidance that we received from the CDC and from our local and state officials. We implemented some really strong disinfecting and enhanced cleaning practices. We expected social distancing and face covering implementation. And of course, we went through a very aggressive campaign before students left about hand washing, as we know that that's really the most important practice that we could see that would make a difference. Once we knew that classes were going to be all online for the spring semester, we started transitioning students off campus. We refunded their rental fees for the remainder of the semester. And then just today, we started having students come back to retrieve their personal belongings in a really thoughtful and strategic way to maximize the ability for students to get their belongings while still staying safe. So it's been quite a challenging semester.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you on behalf of the whole Housing and Residential Education team and all of our residents for your leadership throughout that.
Well, thank you.
So should we expect to see any changes to the move-in experience?
We're approaching the return to campus making no assumptions whatsoever. I think that it's clear that the way that we traditionally had done move-in, which was a grand opening, that we had everybody go to the Marshall Student Center. We worked with our Week of Welcome colleagues in trying to celebrate the start of a new academic year. We're going to need to do some things differently. We're exploring a variety of different options. A couple that I'll share with you is we're looking at potentially doing a drive-in or a drive-through check-in process to try to minimize the contact that we may have and maximize social distancing. We may also decide to decentralize the check-in process and have students go directly to the building that they're assigned. But we need to work out the details of all of what that might look like. And as we know, things have changed over the course of the last 8 weeks. They'll probably change even more over the course of the next 8 weeks. And so we just ask people to stay tuned and trust that we're going to do what we believe is in our best interest to welcome students to the campus while keeping them safe.
Great. So we have a question from an audience member, Michelle. What is the safety plan for students sharing dorm rooms and community hall bathrooms?
The key to safety in a pandemic type of environment is both environmental measures, which we can control, and behavioral measures, which are really up to our students. We are implementing and continuing some aggressive cleaning and disinfecting practices with regard to high-touch surfaces, elevator buttons, doorknobs, and those types of things, surface countertops. We'll be continuing social distancing as long as it is recommended by the CDC with regard to expecting students and asking them to cooperate in staying 6 feet apart and wearing face coverings, et cetera. But it really is going to be a cooperative effort with our students that come back to campus and helping them understand the impact of the various activities and behaviors that we're asking for in order to keep our community safe. So we continue to have very high demand for housing. Students want to be part of the residential community, and we're doing everything that we can to figure out how we can do that and remain safe for both the students that will be part of the community as well as the staff that will be serving them.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the residential experience here at USF. Sure. What sort of benefits do students have living on campus here?
So I've been in higher education and specifically in the housing field for 30 years. And one of the constants in all of the changes that we may have experienced over the decades has been the value of the unique community that is formed when students come together. Living on campus is really critical to how students view what their college experience looks like. Asked most students who had to return home for the spring semester a little earlier than they wanted, and they really missed leaving their friends mid-semester, and it just wasn't the same. They wanted to hang out with their roommates and go to the dining halls and grab a Starbucks at the library. Being on campus provides really convenient access to everything that USF has to offer. And we really want students to come back as quickly as we can and as long as it is safe for them to do so. So the benefits are really our community, and what we're prepared to do is make sure that we're able to form community. It may look different than it has in the past, but that really is one of the key benefits of the residential experience.
Great. So what about the support that residents have as well, both academic and personal? Can you go into the details of that a little bit?
Sure. I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by staff and colleagues whose sole focus it is to help students be successful here at USF. From our resident assistants to the residents' life coordinators, who are the full-time professionals that live in the halls, to our faculty and residents that share the living environment with our students as well. They want to help connect you and help you transition to USF as smoothly as you possibly can. And then the resources that are available throughout the campus, whether that is career services or the counseling center or academic advocates or tutors or campus recreation. There's so many ways that students can be involved and seek out support from a variety of folks that are here on campus and how it is that we build community here at USF.
Great. So my last question for you, Anna, is what advice would you share with incoming students and families as they prepare for this big transition?
So my son just finished his first year here at USF, and so I speak from a little bit of experience here. It's important to embrace the change and understand that everyone's going to find their own path. My son didn't do college the way I did college, and that's fine. It's more than okay. It's because it's the experience that he wanted to have. For families, I would say celebrate your students' success and offer guidance when asked, but try to let students really find their own path. They know that you love them. Let them know that you're proud of them. Coming to USF is really a big deal. And for students, I would say get out there and experience all that USF has to offer. Find something that's familiar, find something that is brand new, find something that you never thought that you would try before, and give it a shot. Stay on top of your academics and remember why you are here, which is to be successful and get your degree. Be patient with your family. They only want the best for you. It's a transition for everybody. So those would be my words of advice.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, Anna. And thanks for taking the time to chat with us this evening.
Sure, it's my pleasure, Julia. And as always, go Bulls.
Go Bulls. All right, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. We will be right back with more USF Housing Live right after this.
National research shows that students who live on campus for at least 1 year tend to graduate at higher rates and sooner than those who don't. It is important that you graduate. If you do not plan to graduate, yet wish to attend college, please speak with anyone who cares about you and share your plans. They will point out the flaw in your logic and may raise their voice at you. Please do not be alarmed. This is to be expected. Once you arrive, you will enjoy having 24-hour emergency maintenance. If the power goes out, our maintenance team can respond anytime, day or night. Power outages, though rare, are normally caused by squirrels. USF squirrels are cuddly creatures with high IQs and a bottomless thirst for wreaking havoc. You may notice that living on campus means you are on campus. Classes are also on campus, as are activities, concerts, group meetings, and food. There is lots of food on campus. Free food. Attend a campus event and chances are that someone will attempt to feed you. This is normal behavior and should be considered a gesture of friendship. USF students, staff, and faculty are friendly. The more time you spend with friendly bulls, the friendlier you will become. Friendly people are more likely to get good jobs, build positive relationships, and be offered food. Food is good because it keeps you alive. Eat food, stay alive, and live the bull's life.
Welcome back. I'm Julia O'Hara, and if you're just now joining us, this is USF Housing Live, and we're here to help prepare you to live the Bulls life at USF. Ask us your questions in the comments, and we'll answer you here live on the show. Joining us from the assignments office is a very special guest. He's been on USF Housing Live every season since it's premiered. He's the Associate Director for Operations and Outreach here at Housing and Residential Education, the one, the only, Dave Kloiber.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, Dave?
Fine. It's a little different joining you from this point of view because I'm at home.
You're right. That doesn't look like the assignments office.
No, not quite.
I see you have a friend there with you.
Oh, you mean Walter?
Is he helping you out?
Oh, yeah. He actually helps out the kids a lot.
Wonderful.
Even at an advanced age that some of them are, they always like to sit on Walter and watch TV and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, I can see why. Well, I'm glad he can join us too. All right, so while we were talking to Anna Hernandez earlier, we got a lot of questions from the audience that I want to jump straight into tonight, if you're ready, okay?
I'm always ready. Let's go.
Okay, so a question from Michelle. Michelle is looking at availability and not seeing any housing availability and is wondering if that's going to change before fall and when she'll be able to see some residence hall options.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Assignments have been ongoing throughout this whole spring. We opened up room selection about 2 months ago, and yes, we do recognize that there is particularly a shortage for beds for women. I added 36 more to the selection process yesterday, and by this morning they were almost all gone. And so it is, while it does appear that we have a shortage right now, we do have a lot of beds that are on hold for special programs out there, for our learning communities, the ACE program, and some other residential programs that we have on campus. And so we do look for those programs to determine what their final need will be for the fall, and then they'll begin to release beds probably within the next 2 weeks. And certainly by June 15th, they need to give us our final rosters, and that way we can release whatever beds they haven't used by that point.
Okay, wonderful. So Chrissy is asking, can you tell me how to look up what dorm rooms are available or have opened up?
Sure. Really, the only way to, if you're selecting a room, that's how you look it up. When you go into the room selection field or into the room change field, because maybe you've already selected a room, but you want to maybe trade up, or you're looking for a different option now that you've done a little bit more research. When you go into the room selection or room change process, you can search for particular criteria. Is it a single bedroom, a double bedroom, a triple bedroom? We actually do have a couple of those. Does it have a kitchen? Does it have a private bath? Does it have a shared bath? Does it have a hallway bath? You can look at those criteria and then actually see what's available at that time that you're actually looking.
Okay. And Lynne is asking how hard it is to swap rooms. Lynne's son's friend hasn't cleared all tasks before he can get housing, but Lynne doesn't want her son to get a room before they're all gone. So she doesn't want him to wait. Do you have any advice for that situation?
So trying to understand, because I'm not sure I heard you right. He wants to swap a room, so he's got everything done. He's already picked a room, but he wants to swap it with someone else, or he just wants to do a room change?
So I guess the underlying question here is if someone is waiting on their friend to complete all tasks, obviously if you're going to select a room as a roommate group, everyone has to finish all the tasks. She's wondering if it's advised to wait for the friend to complete all those tasks or go ahead and pick that room and then try to swap back in with the friend later on. What's your advice on that?
Unless your friend is truly, they've made up their mind and they're going to be living on campus, I wouldn't wait. Now, if they have made up their mind, ask them, what help do you need? What help can we get you by contacting the folks in the assignment office to figure out how can we get your friend ready to select a room so you can both go in and select a room. If you're really worried about your friend and they've been dealing with trying to get their paperwork done for a month, 2 months, I wouldn't wait. Because if they've waited that long, there's no telling how much longer they're going to wait to get all their stuff in. And like our first question, beds are going fast. More beds will open up, and have no fear, they will. But the longer you wait, the less options you have. So unless the roommate is the most important factor in your entire life, I wouldn't wait.
Okay, thank you. So we have another question here about Endeavor Hall specifically. Does Endeavor Hall have a microwave and fridge in the room already? And are there limitations to the fridge and the microwave? This is a question from Liz.
Okay. We don't supply microwaves or fridges in any of the bedrooms. And so regardless of whether it's Endeavor Hall or another building on campus, in the bedroom, we don't supply a microwave or a fridge. Now, there are microwaves in all the lounges, all the active lounges in the village, and there are microwaves in some of our other buildings on campus, but I'm pretty sure they're not in every other kitchen we have on campus. We do supply refrigerators in our apartment style, but that's the only location that we supply a refrigerator that's private or semi-private for the use of the particular residents of that unit. So we encourage our students, you can bring a fridge up to 4.4 cubic feet, and you can bring a microwave up to 1,000 watts. And then you can have that in your room. The big thing I caution you is you probably don't need 2 microwaves in your double room. So you might want to talk to your roommate to find out who wants to bring a microwave, and just make sure it's okay to that you can both share that microwave.
That's a good point. So this is a question from Sandra, who's asking about the current move-out process that we have in place right now for the residents that have their belongings on campus. When can Palm Beach County students schedule a move-out date? Is it still after June 15th? Do you want to share that update?
I actually just emailed all of you Monday night, kind of late, but I emailed 170 Palm Beach County residents to tell them that they can now go in and select based on their group. So if you're in Holly Apartments, Magnolia Apartments, Cypress Apartments, Beacon, Summit, and Poplar, you can actually go in right now and select. And our first group of students were actually moving out today. So we finally have some closure for the spring for these residents who have been so patient and so wonderful, waiting for us to be able to open up the doors again and let them come back and get all their remaining items. If they live in any of the other buildings, that would be what we call Group 2. And their sign up is also active right now, but their dates are the 21st through the 28th of May. But yes,
Okay.
you can go in, sign up right now. Keep checking your USF email, especially if you live in Dade, Miami-Dade, or Broward, because we're keeping an eye on the news and we're keeping an eye on the orders from our governor. And once he lifts the stay-at-home orders for those two counties, we will be adding you back into the move-out mix as well.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Dave. I'm going to jump back into some questions that I had prepared for you. And those that are watching, keep them coming. We're here to answer all of the questions that you have. So I want to talk about the application steps. For someone that is still interested in applying for housing that hasn't done so yet, what are the steps that they need to complete in order to live on campus?
Sure. Once you're admitted, you can log into the housing portal and complete the housing application. Once the application is complete, within the next business day, a $50 application fee will be placed on your student account. You can go into the account and pay it. If you've already paid your admissions deposit, that deposit will go and pay that fee, so you don't even have to worry about putting out another $50 right away. In addition, you want to make sure that you've signed up for orientation, which for most of our students means that you've also paid your admissions deposit. And then also verify that all your immunizations that are required for housing are submitted and approved by Student Health. The required immunizations are hepatitis B vaccine, meningitis vaccine, and if you're an international student, also a TB screening. Now, for our international students, you would be given a temporary waiver for the TB screening until you get closer to the move-in date.
All right. And what's the deadline to select your room on campus?
Sure. Because there always has to be a time that we have to stop room selection. We are stopping room selection on June 30th. So you still have well over a month to select your room. And it gives you a few weeks after the deadline for our residential programs and communities to provide their final roster so we can open up additional space for you to select from. But the last day to do room selection currently scheduled is June 30th for room selection and for room change.
Great. So Abigail has a question that we have covered earlier, but just for those that are now tuning in, can you talk about the housing availability? Abigail noticed that housing is currently unavailable. How often does housing become available?
I'm in the process of doing weekly meetings with all of our campus partners who have beds on reserve to find out what are their true needs as best as they can estimate from now. And so we're trying to release beds as often as possible. Right now, we do have a severe shortage on beds for women. And so we are looking to try and get more of those released. I just released 36 of them yesterday, and they didn't even last a day. They were taken up very quickly. But I would ask that you be patient. As the weeks go on, I would anticipate that the next big release of rooms would probably be on or around June 1st. But don't lose hope. If we're going to run out of beds, we're going to give you more information ahead of time. But the last count I had, we still had somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 or 1,600 beds that are still on reserve or available. And so we still have plenty of space available for our students right now.
Great. So let's talk about the incoming class here. Lynne is asking a question about out-of-state freshmen moving in early. Is this a possibility for the upcoming semester? And if so, would there be any additional cost for this?
We're still working on that. Right now, the whole plan for opening in the fall is being discussed and may have been alluded to by our previous guest, my boss's boss, the assistant vice president for housing. So right now we are looking into what would move-in look like, because the world has changed. And so right now I can't say with any surety what that will look like right now. I can tell you that in the past, if a student moved in early, there would be an additional fee based on the nightly costs of the room that they live in. And so right now, that would be my answer. But again, I don't know exactly what move-in is going to look like this year, because we're actually in the early stages of trying to determine what is the best process, possibly following COVID-19 guidelines, as the CDC recommends, and in other ways to not only be efficient with our move-in, but also be safe with our move-in.
Makes sense. Thank you, Dave. We're getting a lot of great questions. We're going to try to get through all of them, everyone. So Thania asks, for those that are planning to live in a hall with 4-person suites like Juniper Hall, would you need to have a group of 4 people ready to be able to select the room? Or can you select the room by yourself or with just one other person in your group?
You're not restricted on if you want to go in alone, you can go in alone. If you want to go in with just one other person, you can go in with just one other person. I can tell you that we are 2 months into room selection, and so it may be very difficult to find an empty room at this point. So if you do have a roommate, you may not have a lot of choices right now. But as rooms open up, they're typically the entire room, and so that's going to be your opportunity. And you definitely want to keep an eye on the class of groups and on the housing Facebook groups and so on, because that's where we're going to make those big announcements of, hey, we're about to release more rooms. Make sure you're ready to look at what's available and make your selection, or make a new selection if you're looking to do a room change.
All right. Now we have a shout out from an alumnus saying, thank you, Dave, and your team for helping the students navigate all the housing stuff. You know everything. Go Bulls.
Thank you so much. My team's been working very hard, a lot of hours, even though we're not coming into the office like we used to. I'm on Teams with them twice a day, as a minimum, to make sure that we're getting everything done, and we're trying to be ready for everybody to come in, for as many people as possible to come in the fall.
Yeah, you've been working hard, Dave, and we appreciate you. So we have a question from Carolyn asking, since orientation is canceled or online, will freshmen have an opportunity to view where they will be living and go over the move-in process?
Boy, it really all depends on what happens over the next few months. Will the campus be open for tours in the near future? I don't know. I can't say with any assurity that we are going to be able to provide a in-person experience. I do know that we are working on some virtual tours to try and provide as much information to our students as possible. And who knows, maybe we'll make a Teams event or another Housing Live or a Housing Live special about the move-in process and what it's going to be like to move in. But like I said earlier, we are still planning on what that move-in is going to look like. But I have a strong feeling that it's not going to be like it has been in the past.
Right. We talked a little bit about that with Anna, but I would encourage Carolyn to just keep up with us on social media, to check our website. We're going to be providing as much resources as possible for a virtual experience for you to get to know the campus a little bit as we wait for a safe time to come back to campus. So Chrissy is asking more about room availability. Is there a certain time of day that you release rooms? Just wondering what time to go on and check availability each day.
I'd like to say I do it at the same time every day. Some days are busier than others. And so I've been on Teams meetings for probably about 6 hours of today. And so today would have not have been an easy day for me to release rooms until the evening. But if we're going to release a large block of rooms, I'll try and make sure that we have a estimated time that we post along with all of our social media information.
Perfect. Now, Alyssa is asking a specific question about Cypress Suite, so we'll test your knowledge on this, Dave.
Okay.
There is a little entryway into each suite. Is that area big enough to put a fridge?
It's funny you should ask. I mean, it really depends on the size of the fridge, but you can only bring one up to 4.5 cubic feet. And there is an actual floor to ceiling cabinet in that little entry area with a counter next to it and a spot that's made just for a refrigerator. And so, yes, you could put a refrigerator in there. Matter of fact, I've seen people put racks of clothing in there because, the closet's just never big enough. Put their bicycle in that area. It's actually a great option for a little additional storage that most of our room types don't have.
Great. Good knowledge you have, Dave. You really do know everything, don't you?
Been around for a little bit.
So we're getting a lot of questions about LLCs, living learning communities, and I do want to let everyone know watching that next week we are going to have an episode dedicated to living learning communities. But I will definitely dive into some of these questions today so we can get your questions answered. Dave, for those that don't know, can you go over what a living learning community is?
Sure. Well, just like it says, the living learning community is a community within the residence halls where people are living and learning about a particular academic subject or maybe a theme. And so I believe right now we have 12 LLCs for next year. And most of them are academically based. But in this community, you'll have the opportunity to live with people that are all interested in that topic, whether it be academic or theme. And participating in a lot of there are going to be a lot of additional opportunities that wouldn't be available to the general student population. For instance, our BBC does a great job of bringing in, or Bulls business community, I should say, does a great job in bringing in business leaders from the Tampa Bay region to talk about their business, to talk about the journey they had to get to where they are today. And those discussions get people exposure to the business leaders in the area, and sometimes they even result in internships and other job opportunities later on in their career here at USF or after USF. And so it's a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about the area that they're interested in, whether it's going to be their field of their occupation in the future, or just something they're really interested in. We have things in education, honors, Bulls Business, ZAP, which is our Zimmerman advertising program. We have the ROTC, LLC. We have our Stonewall Suites. We just have such a large variety of options available to you, and it's a great opportunity to take advantage of something that you may not see at other colleges, or many colleges, I should say.
Absolutely. So we have a question from Lynne asking, when do extra LLC rooms open up, and when is the last day to apply to get into an LLC?
Well, the LLCs have until June 15th typically for their applications to remain open, and then a day or two after that to give us their final information. And so we'll be opening up LLC spaces that they don't need within the next 2 weeks, I would say. So around June 1st, we'll open up the first round. And then in mid to late June, we'll open up the remaining that are available. It really depends on how their application process is going. They are doing some specific outreach that began actually yesterday. And we hope that outreach will provide an opportunity to have more people get involved in it. And some of these students are going to be moving from locations that they've already selected to move into the LLC. And so when those students move out of their current space into the LLC, it'll open up other spaces on campus. And so it could happen, I would say, look for the first big release within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Liz is asking, when do Endeavor LLC ZAP students receive their assigned roommates?
We are working with the ZAP LLC in order to get the rosters. And so the way most of the LLCs work is they tell us who they've admitted and where they want them to live. And so as soon as we get those rosters, if you're available to be assigned, we'll assign you. Once you're assigned and your roommate's assigned, it'll be available on the housing portal, and you can get that information right there. So keep an eye on the housing portal, and you'll see whether or not you've been assigned, and if so, whether or not you've been assigned with anybody.
Okay. And Lynn is asking, can an LLC student pull in a non-LLC student as a roommate?
No, unless the LLC only needs the one side of your room, then no, you wouldn't be able to. That is probably the one big drawback of an LLC, is that typically they don't mix in non-LLC participants with the LLC cohort, because it's supposed to be that shared experience where everybody's participating.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a question from Liz. How do you choose an Endeavor LLC room if the student is a freshman ZAP student? So basically, how are the LLC students being assigned or selecting their rooms?
So the only LLC that selects their room is Honors. And that's because there are almost 380 rooms in the Honors cohort. And so they have a huge LLC. The next largest would be actually the BBC with about 100 and I want to say 127 or 170, I can't remember, rooms or beds, I should say. But the ZAP LLC has 35, I believe 35 beds, and once they provide us the roster, then we'll get you assigned. You don't actually select your room. But if you have a particular person you know is going to be in the ZAP LLC and you want to live with them, certainly reach out to the advisor of the ZAP LLC, and they'll be able to assist you with that assignment.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have for you, Dave, is can you apply to more than one LLC?
You can actually apply to all the ones you're interested in as long as you qualify. And what I mean by qualify is if you're not an honors student, don't apply to the Honors LLC. I guess you could, but you're going to get rejected because you're not in the Honors College. But you can certainly apply to more than one. We ask the LLC partners that if you see that they've applied to more than one LLC, get together, talk to you, the student, to find out which one you're leaning toward more, and they'll try to make sure that you're in the LLC you want, and try to determine, did you just apply for another LLC as a backup?
Great. Well, Dave, that's all I have for you tonight. And thank you so much to our audience for the amazing questions, and Dave for taking the time to chat with us this evening. I will see you next week, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll be back, and I won't have bells on, though. I draw the line at bells.
Okay, that's all right. Hopefully Teddy can make it too.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll be in the studio. Who knows? Maybe we'll be back.
Maybe. Okay.
Anything could happen.
We'll see. All right, Dave, thanks so much. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, before we go, I want to remind our viewers that USF Housing Live airs Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us for our next episode all about living learning communities on Wednesday, May 20th. You can watch at facebook.com/USF Housing, the Class of 2024 Facebook group, or at youtube.com/USF Housing. USF Housing Live is produced by Housing and Residential Education at the University of South Florida in Tampa. Our motto is best place to live, best place to work, best place to learn. Thank you to tonight's guests, Anna Hernandez and Dave Kloiber, for joining me this evening. Thank you to our production crew, to you, our viewers, and of course, there's always just one last thing. Go Bulls! Good night, everyone.